So the wind is really howling today. It's going somewhere around 30 miles an hour. And so I thought it'd be a really good day to talk about audio systems on a paramotor. And it's something that everyone pretty much struggles with, or everybody struggles with it. They may not say they struggle with it, but they struggle with it if they want to have audio running with video. Of course, there's always ways to do audio from, like, for example, from a Cena to a phone, where your Cena will do a really good job of canceling your noise, and you can run an application on a phone to record your audio and then take it into an audio editing application and synchronize that up with a video, and it does a pretty good job of canceling the terrible sound of the engine to where you can't hear anything. But that has some serious limitations. One of the best communication systems for a paramotor is actually the little Baofeng radios or Yasuo radios with really long distances. The Cena system has very short range, and for paramotorists, even in light paramotoring, you know, trying to stick around with your buddies, it breaks up pretty constantly. And older Cena systems don't communicate that great to newer Cena systems. If you've got the 10, the 20, and the 30, the 10s didn't work that great. The 20s worked a little bit better. The 30s work a little bit better, but it's still a very limited distance. And the little Baofeng and Yasuo radios have really good distance, and they're push to talk. So there's this little device that hooks to the Cena, and the whole reason I went with the Cena is I want a system, preferably, where I don't have anything on my helmet hooked to anything else on my chest or on the paramotor. I want my head to be free of cables. And if you run and I'm just going to call it a Baofeng because that's what I'm running, is a fairly inexpensive, the BF8 I think is what it is. If you run one of these shortwave, I'm not sure if they're shortwave, but one of these little radios, the problem is you're going to have a cable, and this helmet used to have one, and I chopped it off. I hate this helmet, so I have no problem with wrecking it. There used to be a cable that ran down here, and then I had to have that radio down on my chest, and then there was a little push-to-talk button here on the side, which is handy. It really is handy to have that push-to-talk button here. But you'd push right up against your ear, and it would trigger it, so it would listen to the boom mic right here. It would open up that boom mic, and it would trigger that two-way radio. And it works really well for communicating to other pilots, and that's still the go-to, especially for like training and stuff, because I can't imagine using one of these little Bluetooth, you know, and this is obviously the Cena, but there's other makes and models, but I can't imagine using one of those for training. It's just too short range. It's too unreliable. So for reliable communications, the little two-way radios are wonderful, but you can get one of these. I think this is called the S10 units. Can't remember the exact model name of it, but Cena makes this little unit, and I clip this up on my paramotor, and then I use a zip tie to make sure, in case this little rubber clip, but I zip tie this to the paramotor, and so as I'm on it, and I actually have it on my right hand side, I can actually just reach back and click it. So I can be holding my brakes and then just reach my hand back and push it with the back of my hand, and when I push this has a cable that connects to that two-way radio, and it's just the same thing. It's a push to talk, and then it has a Bluetooth connection to the Cena, and gives me fantastic noise cancellation on a push-to-talk radio. Sounds wonderful. Downsides is, unlike the system that was just hardwired, I do have to have my Cena systems, both of them charged and ready to go. If either one of them aren't charged, it can cause a problem. If I update firmware or anything, I do find that I have to repair them. So there's a little bit more tech support issues, but I feel like it gives me that excellent balance of reliability of the two-way radio plus the noise cancellation of the Sena. So for communications, it's wonderful. Downside. Well, I guess the biggest downside is it's very cumbersome. If you've got this little two-way device, you can't make cell phone calls off of your Sena paired to your phone, or at least you can't with an Android, which is what I have. You basically have your communication system tied from this to this. So this acts, the two-way radio is basically your phone channel. And you can listen to radio or to Bluetooth music. Sounds pretty good, but you cannot make or receive phone calls. So that's a big neg on this one, because it is nice when you get a phone call to be able to just, you know, pick it up and answer it automatically. You also, if you do that, it's very difficult to do recording of audio from your Sena to your cell phone. So that's kind of another neg. You know, the more Bluetooth things you get connected, you're going to find that you have more and more headaches with. So I believe that the best way to connect to your camera still, unfortunately, in a perfect world, everything you just connect to a Bluetooth, and you could hear on the Bluetooth anything that anyone's saying to you through your headset. You could record all audio and have it squelch the audio from the motor, but I have not found a way to get all of that to work wirelessly. So in my opinion, the best way to do this is to basically have, and I hate to do this, but is to have two microphones running down here. One microphone for your camera, one microphone for your Sena. The nice thing about that is you're not having to do that thing where you start up your video and then you clap near your microphone and then you try to line up the audio that's coming from your camera on your editing software. You try and line up that clap so you've got your audio in synchronized with your video. You don't have to do that if you can record your audio on your actual camera. So I think probably the best way to do that is to, and I actually had, I had ordered this little device off of eBay, and it came with some extra microphone booms. The guy just was selling all of his Sena stuff. It came with some extra mic booms from the Sena. So basically I took one of the Sena mic booms that I have extra, and these are really nice because they're directional. There's a little arrow on these, and they only record audio from where they are pointing. So they're really good at directional audio recording. You don't really want an omnidirectional because these paramotors are loud, and the omnidirectional, just basically all you hear is paramotor. So if you will take a single directional microphone and wire it into a 3.5 jack and then run that 3.5 jack into the back of your camera. I'm actually using the camera right now, but to record this on, but if you'll run that 3.5, and of course I have this earpiece, but if you run that 3.5 into the back of your camera and record your audio that way, then as long as you're using a unidirectional microphone, I think that's probably the best system we've got right now to record audio. I've given this a test and it sounded pretty good. I've just kind of gotten a temporary connection here. This was a 3.5, and just so you know, this is a 3-pole. Most cameras you're going to have to do a 3-pole connection. The first time I did it, I basically cut off the end of an old beat up pair of headsets I had that had the microphone on it, and thought that I would just use the end on that and wire it in to the Sena. The Sena has a proprietary clip. It doesn't have the 3.5 clip, so I just cut it off, and it won't work. you have to have a 3-pole microphone for stereo connection. Also, you probably want to go ahead and solder your 2 channels together on the inside of that microphone, so you're actually going to be recording mono into your camera off of this. There's no real reason to have stereo. Obviously, you're just recording your voice, so you're going to want to do mono. Otherwise, you're only going to be able to be heard out of your left or your right ear. So if you'll solder the 2 poles together, then you will have a better audio. And that's something I didn't do just for my initial test on this system. I just wired it into one ear, but it did sound very good for about 5 minutes until my really crappy connection, because I did not solder it in yet, came apart, and then it just sounded just terrible. Alright, so I need to take off this crappy tape job I did. I really do not like this connector, and I will probably buy a new one, but this is what I've got right now. Sometimes right now is better than the best solution that you can order parts for. Wow, that wind is really rocking my little motor home around. And no, I do not live in this motor home. Alright, so I think there was actually another piece that used to be on this and never got, or it got lost. I just found this in the bottom of the box. I think there was another piece to keep this back cable stabilized. I'm probably going to put a piece of hot glue in there just to, for now. Alright, so, come on now. This is the Cyber Tool 34 pocket knife. This is what I fly with. I think a little multi-tool is pretty handy to fly with. Oh, well, we just ripped those cables right off. Okay. Well, that's not too good, because I wanted to solder those. Alright, so there we go. So we see here, this pole right here is my ground, and this pole is my left and my right. Wow. Just howling wind out there. Just as the tree started looking pretty. So, a lot of your, especially if you're going to do what I'm doing and just repurpose something you've got laying around, a lot of the microphone and headphone wire has a kind of a cotton insulation to it, and you really, these screws are just a terrible idea, because they just don't make a very good connection, and you just don't have very much to work with to begin with. And this is a tiny little cable. It's not much fun. Alright, so got a cut on my thumb. So, take off that little ghetto band-aid. And so I've got some stripper would be better for this. Be a lot better for this, actually. but don't have one handy. So you know what? Let's take this off of here. My thinking is eventually to take both of these cables and put a this is where my laziness shows, because I should get a pair of dikes or something better to cut these off. The cyber tool makes me really lazy to go get other tools, because I can always get things done with this usually. Of course I say that, and then can't even get it to cut through a zip tie. Alright, that's nice. So this little thing has a little Velcro connector, and I thought, oh well, I'll just put a piece of Velcro there and connect to it, and then the glue adhesive to the Velcro failed. It's terrible. Really not that quality. You know, this almost looks like it has a 3.5 connector in there, but it does not. It does have some sort of connector though, but I don't really want to tear it up just to see. I think that might be the 2. Yeah, I don't think so actually. Looks like it's just a pole with a 2-pole connector, proprietary. I really hate proprietary connectors. Let's see if I can strip this whole thing. I have a pair of Klein IT cable strippers, but they're at the office. Probably starting to see why. Probably how I cut my thumb. I don't even know how I did that. I'm pretty accident prone though. Alright, let's see if we got that thing to strip correctly without damaging the internal wire. A little white internal wire. Let's see. I'm not seeing any damage on it, and these things are tiny. And I'm not good at component repair at all. I'm not good at soldering. I don't have a solder station or any cool tools like that, but did manage to get those. So the first thing that I did notice is my left and my right channel I want to be together. And I'm not a fan of these screws at all. So I'm sure what happened is I probably had a little miniature cable fray out and get up against something, probably connected over to the ground wire. So what I want to do here is connect these two poles. Jeez, how do you keep those apart? How do you make it where those do not ground out? I'm thinking I know why now that this thing was in the bottom of a bucket not being used, because it's pretty terrible. And now it's broken. Okay, that's okay, because what I'm going to do is probably see if I can bend. So one of my ear channels is that center. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend this down, right? And we'll see if we can I don't want to break that one. I do want to have one of those posts sitting up. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to solder, put some solder right in here. Let's see if I can. I'm going to put some solder right in between here, right in there, and that will connect my left and my right ear. So we'll make it a mono connection. And then I will solder my inside to this, and then solder out here. I'll solder my ground out here. I think that will get it done. Again, I am not an electrician, not even a hobbyist. Let's see if I've got any water here. Some water. Pressurize my. Let's turn off the water pump and then depressurize the water system in here. Oh, so the reason why I'm in my paramotor doing this is I'm working on the electrical system in my paramotor as well. Or I'm sorry, in my paramotor. The reason why I'm in my motorhome doing this is because I'm working on the electrical system in my motorhome as well. The alternator was not charging the coach battery while we were driving, so if we tried to use toys with a inverter, it was running the battery down on the road. So turns out the easy solution for that was there was a little connector that went to the battery from the alternator that was not connected to the battery. It was just hanging out in there, and I'd seen it before, but I wasn't 100% sure what it was, so I hooked my hello. That's what happens when you don't level the thing when you park it in your driveway. So what happened was, all I had to do was put a voltmeter on it, and I checked the voltage from that little cable that was sitting there that I didn't know what it was, but I checked the voltage of it with the engine off and the engine on, and I saw that it was getting DC voltage when I had the motor turned on, so I knew that that was the cable that would provide electricity to the battery. Now the downside of that is the cable is terribly small. I mean, it's just it's about as big as this, and how much DC are you carrying on something that size all the way, probably 10 foot of cable or 15 foot of cable from the alternator? There's no way you're going to get much charge on your battery, so got to figure out a system there. Probably going to run another cable, but that's something I don't have the materials to do that today anyways. Alright, so let's see. I'm going to be using these two. And there we go. Yep. Butane in there. And let's get some this solder pulled out. I don't know much about soldering, but I know that this is probably the bad kind of solder. Alright, you want the, I guess you want the leaded solder. At least that's what I've heard. But came with it, so we're going to use it. Again, what I've got right now is better than what I don't have. So I'm going to want to hold this. And let's see if I can move this into a better shot. Alright. Yeehaw. So. Alright. If anybody watches this, feel free to leave me soldering tips. I'm terrible at everything. So I know that, I think if I remember correctly, the best way to solder is to get what you're soldering hot. Not to focus on getting, I think, the material that you're wanting to solder hot versus getting the solder hot. So I don't want to, I think what I've heard is that you try and get the quickly that you will pull the heat. There we go. Wow, this is why. This is not a how-to video, by the way. I'm just recording this for the hell of it. Let's see. Are they connected? Looks like they are. Let's see, how could I test that? Gosh, are my eyes really that bad now? Looks like they are. So I guess, and I don't know enough about audio systems to know this, but I think, let's see, I've got my voltometer out. I just picked up this voltometer. I'm not an expert on using voltometers either. We just learn stuff as we go. But I think I can set this. This is kind of a thrift store find. This little voltometer. I got for $15 at a rummage sale, and I think $15 for a Fluke 23 is a pretty good price. Sometimes I win. Oh, come on. Well, you know what? I probably don't want that on it. I don't want it held by something metal. Let's just stick it right here. Let's see. Alright, isn't that right? Yep, so I've got 0 there. Is this what they call impedance? 0.3. Zero. So there is something. Yep, 0.3, 0.2. So those are connected via the solder. So, as I said, I'm pretty terrible at this stuff. So I think this actually is correct, because when you read the impedance between my ground (1426), there's a lot of impedance, so that's good. It means I probably do not have a short circuit there. If I check between my left and my right ear, those should be together, so 0.3, so not very much impedance. So now let's try it. I'm going to have to do this with the camera. So let's hook it up and check it out. And I believe this camera, I have to turn the video off to get it to recognize the 3.5 millimeter. I'm about to plug in. Sorry if that's a lot of noise. And let's plug it in.
This is an audio test of the microphone sitting right next to my mouth.
Testing. Testing. So it does work. I've tested it out. But now I've got, this ugly thing sitting here, and I really didn't like the original method to cover it up with this big metal deal that can get hung and snagged. So what I'm going to do until I find a better 3.5 jack is I'm just going to heat shrink some tube on here. Hopefully I've got one big enough to fit over this, because I wasn't smart enough to do. That's a little larger than I need. Get the smallest I can get. I wasn't smart enough to do this before the fact and slide a heat shrink tube over it. So let's okay, so I wasn't smart enough to do this before the fact, so we'll have to do it after it. That's too small. Looks like one of those larger ones is all I'm going to be able to do here. That's real large. Oh, okay, there's some sizes even in the, yeah, looks like this is the closest I'm going to get. So, don't need nearly that large. Hear my kids out running around. See, and that's another issue I have with this connector, is if this comes in, that ground will touch, and I'm pretty sure that has been happening. So I'm going to just take a little piece of the tape that I pulled off. Just give it a little bit of a I can't imagine that being a great system where it's really easy to create a short in here, and I think that's why originally I got this and tried to use it in some sort of a board meeting type situation, and quickly learned that that was not going to be the preferred method of making a jack, and I did something better. But I can take that, run it around there inside. And now I can do a heat shrink tape. And one reason I thought that this little soldering iron was too cool for school is that I think it can also be a little torch. Could be wrong here. So if I was a betting man, you know what? I bet if I just I should have read the manual on this. Seems to make a pretty distinctive sound whenever the heat is actually on. Oh yeah, that's nice. All right, so we can use that as our heat for our heat shrink tape. It's going to be able to shrink up enough. That's a pretty big heat shrink piece of heat shrink tape. Heat shrink tubing. I'd be surprised if I call things what they're not actually called. Yeah, I think this stuff only shrinks up so much. And she's given it all she got. Let's go ahead and shrink it around this stuff anyways. Yeah, that's as much as she's going to shrink down. That's okay though. That'll offer a little, like I said, I knew this wasn't going to be my final solution anyways, but we can work with that as a temporary stopgap. Not too shabby. Had I been a smart man, I would have put on a better size of heat shrink tubing before I got all that soldered up, but you know, I said, we don't all start out being great at this stuff. So let's figure out how we're going to do this. I'm going to take my, man, that Cena was hard to get off of there. Okay, so on the Cenas, you'll see there's a little, Cena microphones will have a little directional. I'm sure all directional microphones will, but these have a little triangle on them that tells you which way. And this is a different shape than this one, but anyways, so there's a little triangle there. And let's see if I've got, I don't think I've got a big enough, yeah, I do not have a large enough piece of heat shrink. Now if I had, I wonder, no. So, I don't know if that comes off. Doesn't. I'm sure it does, but I'm not going to take that off. I'm not going to worry too much about it right now. Eventually I do want it to look nice though, where these are kind of joined together, and I know easily at a glance if I've got the right side turned in or not. But for just testing, this is fine. Let's see. So how am I going to get this connected? I think for now, I'll be right back. I'm going to get another piece of double-sided, or another piece of Velcro, and cut it to fit this so that this can Velcro on. Because that's how we're going to do it, at least temporarily.
Okay, so I've got the microphone on, and let's see how it does. Ooh, it's raining. Doesn't look like it should be rainy. That's how strong the wind is blowing. The storm is literally 10 miles away, and it's raining on me. That's how much wind it is right now. It's ridiculous. Really don't like ground starting these damn things. Even if you check your throttle and you're relatively sure that it's not going to run away on you, man, they can chop the living crap out of you if they get wild on you. My primary mission right now is to just check. And this is how I normally warm my motor up, is on the back of this. I usually don't stick around with it on the ground unless I absolutely have to. And it should be a rule probably to never do it. But this thing is loud. And so this is a good test. I want to get that bottom microphone up next to my mouth. And you really should kind of be eating your microphone. If you ever look at how a true pilot mic works, is, man, they've got it literally up against their lips. And the downside of that is obviously you're going to scratch it and stuff with your beard if you've got a beard. So we're coming up on as the heat increases, we're coming up on the idle there. Turn off on Bluetooth. Doesn't like that I'm so far away from my phone. So this should be running about 2,000. I'm having a hard time getting this at any kind of setting to run at 2,000 from cold, and it should, and it used to. But if I can get 1,900, even cold or whatever, 1,900, I'm okay with. That's a 5. I generally say 5% variance on anything in this universe is not too bad. I'd be surprised most houses are within 5% level. Okay, so let's give it a little throttle. Audio check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So about cruising RPM is about 5,000 RPM for me. That's about enough to keep me at a normal float, about 4,500 to 5,000 RPM. So let's see how the audio is at that. It should be pretty terrible. Even the Cena noise cancellation can't handle 5,000 RPM very well. I think that's going to be a good enough audio test. I've had the motor running long enough. So let's transfer this.
Hopefully this video has been useful. I think that good audio is within the grasp of anyone with some time to burn and just a few useful tools. I just used my pocket knife and a soldering iron for the most part. Was enough to get it done. A little black tape, zip ties, things that a paramotor pilot's going to have on them anyways. I'll link to all of the stuff that I've used to make a wireless setup below, and you can peruse that. I'm not going to recommend any of it. If you have a better product or a less expensive product, man, I'd love to hear it. Please comment. I could improve this by possibly making a splitter to go to another microphone inside the ear cup. If I wanted to hear what other people were saying on the video, I could get rid of one of these microphones and have it split to the Cena. That's a possibility as well. Here's the problem though. Putting a microphone inside the earbud, yes, you can hear what other people say on, say, the radio, but on your two-way radio, but you may not want to pick up what other people are saying, and they may not approve of you recording their voices, and it's just kind of rude, whether it's legal or whatever. It's just kind of rude. But also, the more things you put on a microphone, the more chance that you're going to add impedance and you're going to add buzz into the audio. And the idea is to get as clean of an audio source as you can. You can clean that audio up if you're interested on how to do that. I guess I could make another video and show you how to do that for free on your computer. But it's another step you have to do. And the more you have to clean audio, the more you lose a little bit of that quality of your audio as well. I'm not a professional YouTube video person, but I thought this was something that I had a hard time learning how to do all this stuff, and I don't see a lot of people talking about it in a, everybody has to do it. Everybody fights the audio thing with the paramotor, and nobody makes a video of it to show kind of the fight that they have to put up to get things to work. But hopefully this helps. There's definitely other setups. Putting this push-to-talk, mounting it to the helmet would be preferable. But if I did that, then I would have to have a cable running from this push-to-talk down to my two-way. So for me, I just put it back here. And if someone asks me a question or wants to, if I want to communicate and it's not safe to do so, I just don't. I wait to communicate, and people know they're not going to get an instant response out of me. I don't think you should expect an instant response if someone's paragliding or paramotoring or doing anything remotely that they need concentration, just like you shouldn't expect an instant response to a text message if someone's driving. But thanks for watching. Feel free to subscribe or not. It's okay. I don't plan on making this a living, but if I see anything else or you think of any questions that I could make another video and help explain, let me know. I should be, I'll do another helmet build video when I get my final helmet. I wouldn't suggest the yueny helmet to anyone. Just the electronics that came with it didn't do nearly what they said that they would do. But aside from that, everything else I have seems to work pretty well, and I enjoy it a lot. Till next time.
All right. Fun. It is what it is, though, That's, what's that? No, I like it just like that. It does pop. I did it again. It pops like maybe 2 or 3 times, but then once it's going, it stops. So I'd rather have it on the rich side, as long as it'll smooth out, and it does. I'm just wondering if it's getting enough of what it needs to run. And maybe I'm just being a wuss. Maybe I'm not feeling a power loss, but normally I go up.
Harder today.
I get up there pretty quick usually.
You're running your ass off, Forrest. Yeah, you're running because I wasn't running hard at all.
No. I mean, this is enough wind that you shouldn't have to run that hard. I shouldn't be running like Adam. I mean, it's all right, but I mean, it's running good in that it starts just like that. Usually when I leave it sitting for as long as I just did, I've got to prime it. Today, I haven't had to prime it. So I know that the carburetor's no longer misbehaving in that regard. It's no longer seeping air. See, I mean, it's keeping the fuel up there where it's...
Man, if Woody's motor would do that, he'd be happy.
That one's going on YouTube. I think. Yep. Yeah, I can hear it as long as the motor's not run up real. It is a bit of a marathon, though, on these Fords. Perfect. Yes. Perfect, baby. Woo!